Hi everybody, it's Doreen, and I'm back today with my last birthday card for the month of March. This one is for my mother-in-law, Mary. So come on and join me, and let's get started, and I'll show you how I made it. Okay everybody, so let's go ahead and bring up my supplies to make the card. Okay, the first thing is my cardstock, which if you've watched a few of my other videos, you can recognize this cardstock. It's from the cardstock that I picked up or got from work. They were getting ready to throw it out, so they gave it to me or asked me did I want it, and I took it. So you'll be seeing a lot of cards with this being the background because of the fact that I got so much of it. I've even given some of it away because I've got so much. So this measures 4 1/4 by 11, and then I've taken my score buddy and scored it in half to make it a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. And then the other thing that I did was I took and ran the card through my Cuttlebug using my Spots Dots Cuttlebug folder. It looks like this. And then I went ahead and I inked along the edges with my Distress ink by Tim Holtz, and this is the Worn lipstick. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and add my top layer. And my top layer, this cardstock measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I picked this cardstock up at Big Lots. And it's GCD Studios. It's a paper pack that looks like this. And it's double-sided. It has some really pretty papers in here. So what I've done is I've also inked my edges as well with using the Worn lipstick. And then I took my Martha Stewart ribbon loop punch, and I punched out my corners. And then I went ahead, as I said before, and I inked my edges. So I want to lay that on top of the card to make a top layer. But before I go ahead and lay it down, I'm going to go ahead and add my other layers that I have for my top layer. So what I've done is I took and I cut this scallop trim out, or scallop paper, and this is from the Martha Stewart Elegant Cake Art Cartridge, and this is on page 77, and it looks like this. And I've cut that using my Gypsy for the design, and it is cut. The height is 1 inch and the width is 4 inches. So now if you're using your Gypsy, this would be key number 42, and it's called the Doily Border 2. And let me see. I'm going to get that so you can see it. What I used was some glitter paper that came from this paper pack. It's called Flower Shower by DCWV. And it's all glitter paper. So I had to use my deep cut blade with my pressure at 6. And I cut this twice. So now let me get what... show you which key that is on my Gypsy. So that looks like that on your Gypsy. So now if you were cutting this on your, just using your Cricut, you'd probably have to cut it at 1 inch. I'm not sure what height it would I'm sorry, you would cut it at 4 inches, but I'm not sure what height it would come out to be. So when I initially started to make this card, I did cut out the 4 corners using that ribbon loop punch by Martha Stewart. But then once I laid it down there, I realized I didn't really want this corner cut, these two corners cut here. So I'm just going to lay this on top of that, like so. And then I'm going to lay it down on my card just so I can see what it's going to look like. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my Tombow adhesive and adhere that layer down. And I'm just going to get toward the top. And if I do go through the holes, that's okay, because I can go ahead and I can take my adhesive remover tool, which looks like this, and get any of the tape off that I have on there. So I'm going to line this up and lay it down where I want it. And I'm going to put it about right there. And then just go ahead and make sure it's adhered properly. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my next layer, which is also from the Martha Stewart Elegant Cake Cartridge. And that is on page 79. And it looks like this. And that would be key number 44 on your gypsy. And it looks like this. And I cut that the same height and width, which is 4 inches across, 1 inch tall. So what you would have to do if you were using your gypsy is you'd have to make sure that you take off that feature that makes everything the same height, or proportions it so it is the same height and width. You take that and click that chain that's right there, and then go ahead and type in what you want for your height and what you want for your width. So now I'm going to go ahead and line that up and look to see where I want it to go, which is about right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my Tombow adhesive and go ahead and add the tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay that down, like so. And I did tear it just a little bit, but if I take my fingers along here, that kind of puts it back together. So now that's my top layer. Now, what I've also done is I've cut out, using my Spellbinders die, the fancy label. I've cut out this label, and I want to have that sort of in the middle right here. But before I lay that down, I've also cut out a piece of ribbon that measures 5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my base of my card and lay this down, and then measure where I want my ribbon to go. And I want my ribbon to be about right there. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure that's where I want it. And then I'm going to take my clear tape and use the cheater method. And I'm going to go ahead and tape down one side first, and then the other side. As soon as I figure out what I did with my tape. Okay, I have to look for my tape. I'll be right back. Okay, it was right in front of me. I just didn't see it. So let me go ahead and tape this side down. And then I always bring it back around to the front just to look at it, make sure it's straight. And then I can go ahead and tape this side down. Like so. Okay, so now we have our tape ribbon. Now I'm going to go ahead and add all of my top layer to my card. So I'm going to line it up, look at it. I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. Okay. Look to see that that's where I want it. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the ATG gun this time and tape my top layer down. So let's get our tape on our edges. And then we'll run the tape in the middle. This is some really pretty paper too. I especially like that it's double-sided. So now, let's go ahead and open the card back up again, and we're going to go and lay this down where we want it. And I think I want it right there. So now, I can go ahead and make sure I have it here down. I'm going to run my finger along my edges and then in the middle. Like so. So now we're ready to add our label. But before we add the label, I'm going to go ahead and stamp in the middle the happy birthday. So rather than using my Stamp-A-Majig for this, I'm just going to eyeball this because it's not that big. And my stamp is from My Pink Stamper. It's the Family and Friends pack. And I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp this out. So I ink up my stamp, and then I'm just going to pull this in front of me just a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got this lined up in the center where I want it. And then stamp down. And there you have it. Happy birthday. So next, what I want to do is go ahead and I want to add some foam squares just to pop this up just a little bit. So I'm going to add my foam squares on the back. Like so. And I'm just going to put 3 on there, 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle. And then I'll take my card, and line up and just lay that down to see where I want it. Just about right there. And I also, what I did, if I didn't mention it before, is I didn't go, after I ran this through the Cuttlebug, using the Spellbinders dies, I went back and did the embossing of the Spellbinders die and added some of the Positively Pink by Stampin' Up! Ink in the middle and along the edges. And the camera probably won't pick up where it's been embossed. So let's go ahead and take the foam tape off. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this to my ribbon. And I'm going to place it right there. So now let's go ahead and add the butterfly. This butterfly is one of the Recollections butterflies that I picked up when I did that big haul to Michael's, when they had the Recollections embellishments 50% off. So I'm going to pop that up with some foam squares. And I'm going to go ahead and add that right here in the corner. And I just kind of want it to sit up like so. So now the last thing I want to do on the front of the card is I also have these flowers that I picked up at Hobby Lobby's a while ago, and they're Prima flowers, and they came in a jar like this. And what I did was, the original flower was this color, but I wanted it to shine a little bit more and have a glistening effect to it. So I took some of the iridescent medium and I mixed it with my watercolor paints. And I used this one right here. Here, let me take that off so you don't see that glare. It's this one right here, and you can actually see the glistening. So I first wet my watercolor paint with my little mister, and then I took a paintbrush and dipped it in the iridescent medium, and then I painted the flower. And when I was done and it dried, it came out like this. Now the camera may not pick up how it's sparkly and glistening, but it's really pretty. It's sort of like making your own shimmer paint or your own glimmer mist. So now I'm going to take that flower, and I have another one of the brads that was part of the Recollections sale that I picked up, and I'm going to put that in the middle of this flower, like so. So it ends up looking like that. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to lay that right there. So I'm going to take my glue gun and get some glue on the back of it so I can go ahead and adhere it down to the card. And I want to put it right there. So now that is the front of the card. So now let's go ahead and add the sentiment in the inside. For my inside sentiment, what I did was I once again used my word card book that has different wording in it for different occasions. And this one says, "This wish for you, mother, is straight from the heart with more special meaning than words can impart. May your day hold pleasures that you're fondest of, and remember each day you're thought of with love. Happy birthday." And then I've signed it my name and my husband's name. And then what I also did was I just took and put a little flower in the corner, and I used some of my, and I stamped it out with the Positively Pink Stampin' Up ink, and I used the Martha Stewart glimmer markers. I used the pink and the red to do the butterfly that is in the middle of the stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and after I printed this out, I forgot to say that, I printed this out on my computer at 13.5 point. And I don't remember what font it was. If I remember which one it was, I'll put it in the video or I'll put it in the description bar. But after it was printed out on just some regular printer paper, I then took my Nestabilities rectangle die, the largest size, and cut that out. And then I adhered that to some pink cardstock, and I just eyeballed to give myself 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then for my corners, I took and used my ticket, or my Clouds corner chomper on each corner. So let's go ahead and add this using the Tombow adhesive. And we're going to get on the edges and then in the middle. And then I'm going to lay this down and go all the way around and then in the middle. And there you have it. So that is my birthday card for my mother-in-law. Happy birthday, Mary. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.